Welcome to Speaking of Crypto with your host, Shannon Grinnell.
Explain to me what's going on in that room there. It looks like you have a grand piano, you were saying.
Yeah, it's my grand piano. I told my wife when we moved to the suburbs, I was definitely gonna get a grand piano. We had lived in apartments in Memphis and Baltimore prior to that, and there was no room for a piano. So when we came down here, I demanded one, and we've got a guitar back there. This is our music room.
I love it. We have a music room at our house as well. It's in our basement in the furnace room, really. but it's still what we call the music room, and we have a full-size drum kit there because our three boys, one of them plays drums, the other one plays bass, the other one plays guitar.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, my oldest just started practicing. Well, I guess he's been playing piano a couple of years now. And we're trying to get my middle child started here shortly.
Oh, it's great. And do you have a music background?
I mean, sort of, I suppose. I played in, started from middle school band all the way through high school band, jazz band, all that stuff. But I started learning piano at 8, so that was my first instrument.
Yeah, music is something that I'm going to say it changed my life. I feel like when, this is going to really date me, but Live Aid and Band Aid and the whole Live Aid for Africa, I thought was so powerful that I decided to really pursue music in a big way, and I went to college for music.
Awesome.
Yeah, so my dad was not so supportive. He dropped me off to my audition, and he said, my dad is a corporate architect, so very successful and, just very career driven in that way. And he dropped me off to my audition, and he said, well, what will you do if you don't get in? And I said, I don't know, I guess I'll take something at university. And he said, well, bad luck to you then.
Oh, wow.
So thankfully he came around. He really appreciated the arts. When I was at film school, I think felt sort of some pressure from my dad to continue to do something that he maybe thought was important at university. So I signed up to take my LSAT. I told him, I think I will get into law when I finish my film degree. And he said, why? You're so creative. So sometimes parents are, growing up with their kids, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Every day.
Yeah. So did you ever do anything with your music?
I recorded a few amateur things in my kitchen in college. They are on the internet somewhere.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, I think music is one of those things that brings people together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a good escape, different side of the brain from programming and such. So yeah.
Although I found it very mathematical, I'll have to say, when I was studying college at music and we were getting into music theory, and this was a jazz music school, I actually really enjoyed it because it seemed like there were systems, depending on what octave you were in or depending on what scale you were using, and how the chords related to that scale. It felt very mathematical. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's probably what draws me to it too. I think but after you get through all that, then it just becomes muscle memory and
right.
Really thinking about the theory. At least I don't all the time. I guess I'm pretty raw, but
no, it's great. Yeah, you got to go with feel for sure. So why don't we talk about university? You had said, you posted on your LinkedIn that you tried to attend the fewest number of classes and still graduate, which I actually admire as a philosophy. What was that all about?
So I was trying to start my first company at the time, and it was during the first .com era. So I was pretty sure I was going to be a billionaire. So I didn't really care too much about the classes and that sort of thing. But I knew I needed to have like a fallback degree just in case. And it did actually come in handy later when the company ultimately failed. But yeah, it was kind of a what's the highest grade? What's my highest GPA I can get if I just do the bare minimum effort? My crowning achievement, I think, personally, was when I took a differential equations class in the summer and went to the first class, took the midterm, and took the final. And that was all I did. And I ended up getting a 60.49. So I barely passed the class. but I got credit for it. So that it wasn't a seawall class. So I was good to go.
Yeah, and when you're out in the real world, people aren't looking at what your marks were.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
If the degree matters, it's really just the degree.
Right. Exactly. And when I'm looking for new hires, I don't really consider degree very important. If you have the experience and you can type it out, then yeah, it's totally fine with me.
Now you have kids. What will you say to your kids when they get to college or university age?
Well, everything's changing now. We're obviously currently banking on like 4-year college for them. We definitely want them to do that. But at the same time, with different tech colleges, I guess, coming out that are in a lot of ways superior to the traditional path, they're going to have a lot more options, I think. And I don't know, like you said, parents growing with the kids. I think that everything's changing so fast right now that a 4-year degree may not be the best scenario when they're ready to actually go to college. So I don't know, we'll see. I mean, 4-year college is the thing right now, but it may not be when they get there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of ways that college is changing as well. Like there are some schools where you don't actually have to pay until you have a job.
Right,
more
exactly.
Like technical schools, which I think is fantastic. But you told me that your wife is a doctor. So I would imagine if they're going into a profession like that it's still going to be extremely valuable to have those credentials.
Oh, sure. But she doesn't want them to be a doctor.
Why is that? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. We went through a rough 10 years of training. She subspecialized. She was a radiologist and she subspecialized in breast. So she had med school, internship, residency, fellowship. So 10 years of training that we had to go through. It was hard. And she doesn't really want that for the kids.
Yeah.
She likes to say she wants them to either be a dentist or a plumber. Because they make really good money and have better hours.
Oh, that's great. Interesting take on it too, especially having done all that work. Wow. Well, let's get into Lolli because I think it's such a great concept. Can you explain to me what it's all about? Because it also feels like it's Bitcoin for free.
Yep. Earn your Bitcoin instead of buying it, instead of investing into the volatility of Bitcoin. You just do your normal activities that you would do online. We figured what's something everybody does online every day. Well, maybe not every person, but people, and they shop. So when you shop online, the retailers pay us a commission for that sale that we send to them. And then we cut the shopper in for a certain amount in Bitcoin from that commission. So it's really that simple. As far as the business model goes, actually building it out was it's quite a challenge to get all the partners on board, and but it's good for the retailers because they can say that they are doing something with Bitcoin. They're not having to accept Bitcoin yet; they're just participating in this Bitcoin program. So it gives them some street cred too.
That's interesting. Yeah, they're sort of joining the movement without diving right in. They're just sort of sidelining it. Yeah, makes sense. And why did you choose to do this platform using cryptocurrency rather than just a regular through PayPal or through USD?
Yeah, so it's crypto's really interested me and Alex Edelman, my co-founder. After we left our last company, we both were independently looking into crypto projects. And we kind of been looking at Bitcoin for a few years prior, but we were so busy with a previous company that we never had a chance to do anything with it. So once we started researching it and getting into it, I got in about 2 years ago. And I was looking at some healthcare applications on Ethereum. He was looking at a few things on his end. Ultimately, we came to, hey, let's give people Bitcoin for free to get more people interested in it, get more people to adopt it, and move it out of this clique of techie people and get into the hands of everyone. And we figured the best way to do that, easiest way to do that, would be through shopping and rewards. So they get the Bitcoin, they hold on to it either through us or they can move it out to their own address. The longer they hold on to it, they get to ride this roller coaster with us of, is this going to be the next big thing or isn't it? We think it is. So the upside is way better than just giving out dollars. And especially, as a hedge against the dollar itself, we believe in Bitcoin as a better currency. It's harder money, and long term, we think it's going to be worth more.
Yeah. So why do you think that? I mean, a lot of my listeners are pro crypto, but so you're preaching to the choir. But I'm curious as to why you think that.
Well, so it's hard money, and I think that having hard money be the currency, the global currency, is much better for everyone, without having government interference in monetary policy and that type of thing. So having that peer-to-peer exchange without authoritarian oversight is really appealing to me, and I think it's appealing to most people long term. They just don't know it yet because they're used to the current system. So I guess, part of our mission too is to educate people on why we want them to hold Bitcoin and why it's better for them long term. And, whatever happens with the dollar or doesn't happen with the dollar, we don't see Bitcoin going anywhere. So,
and do you think the price or the value of Bitcoin will stay where it is, or, go up or down, or what's your feeling on it?
It'll go up. It's definitely going to go up again, because right now we have so few people in the world that actually own it. There's so many more people that could buy into it. So there's a huge market there that just hasn't been tapped yet for people who want to own it. And then there's a limited amount. So there's going to be a point where you can't actually buy into it anymore or earn into it. It's 100 years from now, I think. But it's it's just going to be, the demand is going to be there. Technology, the layer 2 on top of it's going to get better with Lightning Network, things like that for doing microtransactions. There's just so much cool stuff going on in that space. It really is like the internet of money, and the revolution of the change in money. So
yeah. Now, what do you think is the biggest barrier to entry for someone who maybe is coming through Lolli to Bitcoin for the first time?
Yeah, so I think the biggest barrier to entry is people who think it has like some negative connotation to use Bitcoin, or it's somehow illegal or counterfeit or what have you. So first and foremost is kind of that mystique it has. It's like educating people on, no, this is good. This is what Bitcoin actually is, and this is what it's used for. This is what it's good for. And then the second thing would be actually holding on to it. So when we launched Lolli, we first anticipated the majority of our customers being those that had never used or never owned Bitcoin before, so wouldn't really know how to keep their own hardware wallet or paper wallet and keep track of their private key, so on and so forth. So we provided the custodial wallet as our first solution, and in a way we were very right about that. I think the majority of our users are still on custodial wallet. No, they definitely are. And then later some of the advanced users in the crypto community started using it and demanding more features. Well, we need to transfer this to our own Bitcoin address. We're like, okay, so we added that in, and so now we have kind of both paths. You can hold on to it in your Lolli wallet, which is best for most people right now. And then if you're an advanced crypto user, you can offload it to your own address. You can also cash out to USD if you just want to get out of the market. We've got that ability too.
Can you do that directly from Lolli? You're saying from your own Lolli wallet?
Correct. Yeah, you can take it straight to your bank.
Right. Now, what do you do with the Bitcoin that you're holding on to, since you are the custodian? We've had some trouble in Canada with Quadriga.
Oh, yeah.
With the founder passing away.
Yeah, needless to say, we don't have a single point of failure. We do use cold storage for everything. I can't really describe too much about how we do it for OPSEC reasons, but I think it's pretty thorough and well thought out. And right now with the transaction volumes or the transfer volumes that we're seeing, it's working really well for us.
And what would happen if you or your co-founder passed away, God forbid, and the Bitcoin was still there and users needed to access their funds?
It wouldn't be an issue. Let me just put it that way. We've got backups and redundancies for that. So.
Right. So what's the biggest, educational piece that you're trying to help new users understand, or sort of beginner shoppers using Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I guess the main education piece, like I said, is getting people just accustomed to this idea that Bitcoin is a good thing. I guess the long-term goal of that is to make sure they understand a lot more about how to maintain their own security and privacy, because I'm a big privacy nut. And I think a lot of people, normal people just use password as their password type of thing, and they don't really care about it. It's an inconvenience. Security is an inconvenience. Privacy is an inconvenience.
Yeah, I feel like privacy is a basic human right. However, does the onus have to be on me in order to keep things private? I'm wondering, is there some sort of in between? Do you use a password app to keep all your passwords, or how do you manage passwords? What do you think is the best way to do that?
Yeah, I do use a password manager. I don't know any of my passwords, so. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. You generate, depending on the site you go to, generate a 64 character random password and use that, and then constantly reset it whenever you go back to your important site. So your banking and stuff, make sure you're constantly changing those, and changing your master password for your password manager, that type of thing. But these are all steps that most people just do not take.
No, absolutely. And leaving them vulnerable. So is that your suggestion, is really that people use these password apps?
Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest first step, is find one that you like and is trusted, and preferably open source, so that you can view how they're actually storing things. And then just get into the habit of using those for generating your passwords. Apple recently introduced with Safari, they generate these complex passwords for you when you're filling out forms. And that's a great first step too for most people, because it's just this long random thing and they'll never know it, but they store it in Safari. So, hey, that's a good step one, because normally people keep their computer locked down. If they do, then they pull up Safari, they've got this password stored in Safari, and then they don't really need to remember it, but nobody's going to guess it.
Makes sense. Well, Matt, can you take me back to some of your previous work experience and how you feel like that has led you to where you are now?
Yeah. So, I've always been doing projects on the side or full time, just dabbling in different things, different languages, different technologies since I was 13 or 14. I used to code on TI-85 calculators and Apple IIgs. And that was how I really got interested in doing code. Actually, Nintendo games was what I wanted to do. I wanted to make
That's awesome.
When I grew up. Yeah, that was my main goal. And I've actually gotten way out of gaming at this point. But
probably don't have time.
Yeah, no, none at all.
Just as an aside, do you think there's a future for crypto in gaming?
Yes, I think in the sense that, as an online gaming currency, it can make sense. I mean, we've seen some success with other, like with Fortnite, what is it, V-Bucks? And I might be getting all that jargon wrong.
You're right. Yeah, it's called V-Bucks. I only know because of my boys.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're dating both ourselves.
That's for sure.
But yeah, I think there's been success there. I think there could be a good entryway for something like Bitcoin to become the gaming currency across multiple games, across platforms, that type of thing. I don't know the state that I really don't think it's gonna, like, blockchain is gonna serve as a gaming engine, or the backbone for new games.
Right.
I have seen things like Lightning Chess, which is pretty cool. There have been a couple of Ethereum games that have come out, but I don't know. I honestly, I would be out of my depth there trying to describe gaming on blockchain. But
yeah. I'm curious as a currency, just because I know V-Bucks are really popular. So, imagine more games with that sort of scope that are actually using crypto that you can take outside of the game and then use within the game as well. I think it could be a really interesting use.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, I took you away from where your background was.
Oh, right. So I want to make Nintendo games. I went to college for computer science, started my first real company there. It was called Centernet. and we did some Java hosting, Java servlet hosting, which was new at the time. This was during the .com era, and so we had, had a very small team, but it was a fun experiment, I guess. In retrospect, that's all it really was. We learned a lot of good lessons from it. Um,
What's one of the big lessons that you learned?
so one of the biggest is a friend of mine who invested in the company noticed I was working too much and working all the time. I was literally sleeping 3 hours a night with the intent of getting up and working more on this. I was trying not to go to class so that I could work more on this. And he said, "Look, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't eat, you die, and then there is no company." And that's kind of the biggest lesson that stuck with me today, through today.
Yeah, it's beautiful for someone to be that honest with you in a way that is helpful, but also, just very direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've always appreciated that. And yeah, that was, I guess, a philosophical learning. Other learnings we pulled from it were how not to get into a commodity business. We were hosting at the time. That was kind of a novelty. And then, hosting became cloud-based and such over time.
Right.
I remember when we were paying like $1,100 a month for a T1 line. That's insane now. It just...
Everything changes very quickly. Yeah.
It wasn't going to scale.
Right.
So,
yeah, makes sense. And then what about some of your, more recent businesses that you've been involved with?
Yeah, so fast forward, after that failed, I did my time selling cell phones at Best Buy, went through a couple of corporations, feeling a little bit underappreciated, moving from place to place.
And do you think you were underappreciated? I think corporations often underappreciate. They try and get the absolute most out of each employee and, just maximize their own profit.
Yeah, and I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's a way, it's a byproduct
system.
of... Yeah, exactly. I think part of it was I wasn't selling myself enough internally, and so people couldn't see that these things that were coming out, these things that were being produced, were actually my inventions, my frameworks, that type of thing. And I literally didn't realize it till I left, like Blue Cross Blue Shield, that they didn't know that these were my things. And well,
yeah. Now, if you were able to go back, how would you do that sort of artfully? Would you be able to come up with another way to sort of sell yourself in hindsight?
Yeah, I think I've tried to keep that as a driving factor in how I approach things these days. I don't know that I could have then. I mean, I've always had kind of this. I've been very trusting, I suppose, and so when you, and especially when I was younger, and not as jaded as I am now, I suppose, but just trust that if you work hard, somebody's going to notice. Trust that you'll be rewarded, or based on merit, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then that's the system you're promised. It doesn't really work out that way, and so even now I still have a hard time doing it, like saying, "Oh, this thing that we built is great because of this." It just feels icky to me to have to, pat myself on the back or anything like that. And
to get up there on stage and sort of shout out, like, "Look at how great!" Yeah, totally get it.
It's odd. It's a very weird feeling. But yeah, I think I definitely try to do better about it these days. I don't think I could have back then.
Yeah. I understand that for sure. And then, so post sort of corporate, then you had a couple of your own companies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always was building something on the side. I sold T-shirts online. I started a privacy-oriented photo sharing app called Frame. It was secure end-to-end, so the middleman couldn't peek at your photos, that type of thing. They would expire. You could pull them back. Very Snapchat-like before Snapchat, with additional security. And then that's when I met Alex Edelman, my co-founder of our previous company, Cosmic Cart. We were on Google+, and I also connected with him on AngelList because he was looking for a CTO for Cosmic Cart, and I was looking for some help with Frame, which was the photo sharing app. And so I decided his was more monetizable, or easily or more quickly monetizable. So I jumped off Frame and onto Cosmic Cart, and then we spent 5 years doing that, building an e-commerce gateway for backends to connect publishers to retailers for selling, buy buttons, that type of thing.
And how is it different from Lolli? How is that?
Well, okay, so the main difference was it was an enterprise technology, and that was, it was good, it was fun, but it was difficult. It was a two-sided marketplace where we had to build up the publisher side, the retailer side, make all these connections. We never got to actually interact with the customer, that type of thing. So it was very B2B, which is great in its own way. But I think with Lolli being a consumer app, it's a lot more fun. We get to interact with our community. We have a very active community on Twitter. It's just a lot of fun. People, posting what they're getting, what they're buying, stacking sats, that type of thing. And it's exciting. And, we have control over the front end. Our designer is really happy about that. He was our designer on Cosmic Cart as well. So it's more fun, I think, making a consumer product.
Great. Now, what's been really fun about it? Can you tell me some fun stories about some of your consumers?
Yeah, so I think my favorite story right now is somebody bought a prescription at Walgreens and got Bitcoin back. And like these kind of things pop up now, and I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. So we've got so many partners. Yeah, so many partners with so many different categories of rewards or products that produce rewards. That sometimes these things pop up, and I had no idea we even had that company, for example. Like,
fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean that's also due to Shayna Jordan. She was our first employee. She's doing all the sales pitches and stuff to the different retailers and getting them on board, and she does a phenomenal job. So she used to kind of broadcast it in our Slack channel, like, "Hey, we just got blah. Hey, we just got blah," and then that became too much effort because there were so many that they just started appearing as a surprise to me. And there's some big ones, like we just recently announced Foot Locker. I knew that one was coming, so
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, absolutely love it. Well, my husband used to work at eBay, so we're really familiar with the cash back. So now to have this Bitcoin back is brilliant. I absolutely love it. I think it's such a cool concept. Can't wait to dive in. But as I was saying to you before, being in Canada, it's a little more challenging for us to have things shipped from the US, where the shipping cost may be more than what we would receive back in Bitcoin. But we're trying to find a way around it. Like, I know you have Priceline, so I can get a hotel, and I'm not, don't have to ship anything, so I can still stay at a hotel somewhere and get that Bitcoin back. Do you have other partners where there isn't necessarily a product being shipped back and forth?
Well, so travel is definitely the best for that, and travel is our biggest category. Actually,
biggest category meaning financially, that biggest return.
Yeah, the biggest and most amount of sales, dollar value.
Right, because it's expensive to travel.
Well, that, and I think it's the most popular with some of our. So I guess what you find in the crypto community too, you find a lot of people who don't spend a lot of money. So it's kind of a philosophy of like holding on to things and being frugal with your funds. And the one thing they still do, if they don't go shopping at Walmart or Foot Locker or whatever, they still travel. And so what we found is that we'll have people that exclusively travel through Lolli. They don't buy anything else. They just go to travel sites and purchase their tickets and
Love
so
it.
on and so forth. There are other ones like SeatGeek, so that's not travel, but it's not. There's no shipping there for tickets, that type of thing.
Yeah.
StubHub, and let's see, prescriptions. Apparently, we can do prescriptions.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, prescriptions are huge. So just the idea of, if you're in a position where you have to have a prescription monthly, and to be able to get this, Bitcoin returned back to you for something that you're going to do anyway, I just absolutely love it.
And then the other thing you can do is buy online, pick up in store whenever that's available. That's a good way of doing things. So that way you don't have the shipping costs, especially if the store is just down the road.
Right.
Now the main problem we have with going internationally though is that we have regulatory issues that we have to comply with, and then we also have to get local partners. So Walmart of Canada, so that we're on their bonus program, that type of thing, so that we can actually give you Bitcoin for those purchases. And then if they're in Canada, the shipping cost is going to be something you're more accustomed to.
Absolutely.
So yeah, developing out that's a whole sales process of getting all of those retailers on board. And then there's an engineering process as well to make sure we're in compliance.
Right.
So
yeah, makes sense. Do you have any crypto companies where you can actually, let's say, purchase something in crypto or support a crypto company and receive crypto back? And is it oh, sorry, go ahead. Got one more question.
Yeah. No, so we've been trying to get a couple on. I think they become one-off integrations right now, so it's very difficult for us to bring on one crypto company at a time type of thing.
Right.
But yeah,
as opposed to a big chain store, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's generally an easier way to integrate with those.
Right.
And you get a greater return on that investment too, because you have so many more items that can be purchased there, that type of thing. So it's all, we're working on that.
Yeah, or something like an iTunes, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, they may have their own crypto at some point, but that would be amazing as well. I was going to ask you, is it just Bitcoin that you get back, or are there other cryptos that you could receive?
Just Bitcoin right now. We've had a lot of requests, as you might imagine, from pretty much everybody.
Yeah, every crypto out there.
Yeah. Like, can you add this? Can you add
Everyone
this?
has their favorites, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're just going to stay on Bitcoin for a while. I don't know how long, but maybe we the back end is completely currency agnostic, so we could add more in different cryptos. I think our thesis right now completely revolves around Bitcoin, though, and Bitcoin is kind of that marketable one that people who don't understand cryptocurrency have heard. So they've heard of Bitcoin. So owning it is a little friendlier, I suppose, than say Ether. What's Ether?
It keeps things simple, especially when you're trying to get it out to an audience that isn't crypto based or they're still learning.
And there's plenty of exchange services where if you earn Bitcoin on Lolli, you could take your Bitcoin, move it to your own address, and do some shapeshift or something to turn into whatever you want. So there's not that many steps between getting Bitcoin back and turning it into your own preferred crypto.
Yeah, makes sense. Did you want to talk any more about Cosmic Cart and what you've learned there, or how that helped you when you started Lolli? Yeah,
so Cosmic Cart was really hard. It was a lot of work, and I think so. Alex and I, we've always been big believers in small teams. I think we kept Cosmic Cart artificially small. And we kind of burned ourselves out over time. It was just that intense, building the two-sided marketplace.
And even though at this point you were trying not to work, those 20 hours a day, like you were saying, and you had that advice to take care of yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was actually in decent shape then too. I would try to run every day and, make that a part of my routine. I'm trying to do that again now. It's even more difficult because I've got 3 kids instead of 1. But,
busy times.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of my biggest takeaway from Cosmic Cart is we need to know when to grow, how to grow, strategically. And I think we're doing a better job of that with Lolli. We've got 8 people now total. Some are contractors, some are full-time.
And when is the right time to grow? What did you learn?
So I think we're seeing it now. Everybody's wearing a lot of hats right now. Shayna and Victoria on the business side and support side, they're doing business and support and, Twitter support, email support, looking up, communicating with retailers, looking for lost orders, things like that. So it's a ton of stuff that takes up their day that could be offloaded to a new person. So I think when you recognize that, okay, these 2 people are doing the work of about 5 or 10, maybe we should add a new person to the roster there and have them start taking something off their plate. And then on the engineering side, same thing kind of happens. Now we've got my director of engineering is phenomenal. His name is Jared Giles, and he was actually, incidentally, most of the Lolli team is from Cosmic as well. We rehired our front end engineer. Jared was a Cosmic employee. I've got another guy that was his name is Matt as well, Matt Jenkins, who was helping us out a little bit just in his spare time. He was with Cosmic. So it's been, we recreated the same small team. And then just, I think I'm trying to be very cognizant of when people are getting too much on their plate. Because we'll get new every day. There's something new that comes in. It's like, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? Hey, so and so retailer needs us to do it like this. And then being able to change something about the system to support that. That tends to take a backseat to bigger architectural and feature rollouts, that type of thing. So then I look at that and I say, okay, well, maybe I need another engineer that just handles some of these inbound support updates for adding tiny little tweaks here and there, maybe a junior developer, things like that. So
yeah,
I'm still learning how to do that. I think Lolli's growing way faster than Cosmic did, so I need to pick up my learning speed, I suppose. But
what would you say is, we sort of talked about what your learnings are and where you're going as a founder and CTO. What's maybe the most fun thing about what you're doing now and your role there?
Yeah, so I think that comes back to Twitter. I think Twitter's the most fun because you get that instant feedback. People DM us with questions. We've got a concierge service that Shana and Victoria are handling as well, where people say, hey, where can I find blah, blah, blah? And, they'll answer that and, find the best Bitcoin back from our partners, that type of thing. Just interacting with people, I think, makes it a lot more fun. And then, secondarily, I think the whole Bitcoin aspect, honestly, of, making Bitcoin something much easier to adopt. I think that's a fun and exciting thing to me because we're disrupting something. We're disrupting money. We're helping disrupt money. We're not the pioneers of Bitcoin, but we are a channel for it, a growth channel. And so, yeah, that's a lot of fun to us, to me especially.
Yeah, you're a part of the whole crypto world now. You're part of the Bitcoin crypto movement. What excites you most about the future of where things are going? You're saying disrupting money, or
yeah. I definitely don't like the idea of authoritarian systems controlling things, and that could be governments down to a boss. I've never been very good with authority, I suppose.
And yet here you are. You're in a position of authority.
Yeah, well, so I try to keep that in mind because I know a lot of engineers are very bad with authority too. So we try to keep everything very democratic, I suppose. But so I've always kind of shirked that or shunned that and wanted to have, it's like, oh, I could do this better. You're doing this wrong. I have a better idea. I could do something that would make this much more profitable or much more efficient. This is the wrong way. And then, look at Bitcoin and it just, kind of clicked as something that, that definitely works better. I think long term, that's really going to upset people and make other people, it's going to shift, I guess, the power of money to the people away from authoritarian governments, that type of thing. So that's really appealing to me. That might be a big holy grail of Bitcoin and a pipe dream, but it's still exciting to think that could be a possibility. That's one possibility of the outcome of all this, is that we end up with a new money.
Do you think there may be, could Bitcoin be a one global currency?
Yes, totally. Yeah. It already is, right? Because, people do transactions across borders with these low transaction fees already. It's already happened. It's just going to be a matter of getting it into the hands of more people. It's done.
And do you think any other crypto could overtake Bitcoin as the lead cryptocurrency?
Not really. I think, Bitcoin has had its own, if you look back at the white paper, it's phenomenal the way it's planned out and just the way that it organically grew from that. So we have this theoretical white paper that goes into all these what ifs, essentially, of, okay, well, if this happens, and this is why it would still work, and if this happens, and this is why this would still work. And it's like every contingency is planned for, and then when it's implemented, it actually works that way. There's not a good way, I think, to spoil that system. I guess you can't counterfeit Bitcoin. You can't add more to it. Aside from brand new technologies coming out of nowhere, aliens visiting the planet and saying, "Wow, this is very primitive."
Right.
all these things are possible, but they're not probable. especially for the next 100 years. So yeah, it's super exciting.
If I know nothing about Bitcoin and I'm curious, what would you say to sort of pique my interest?
Yeah, so I think I guess it depends on the person, but if I'm talking to somebody who is an avid shopper, then the answer is easy. I can say, well, you can get free Bitcoin back for shopping. If I'm talking to somebody who has heard of Bitcoin but didn't know much about it, I can tell them that it is the essentially the money of the future. It's going to be a new asset class long term. And investing in it could be as sound as investing in real estate or gold, that type of thing. So if it's somebody with financial savvy, that's a good way to approach it.
Yeah, I think those are good, intriguing starting points, which is probably what it takes.
Yeah, totally.
Piquing someone's interest, really. Now, is your whole team, you were describing your team, is your whole team based in North Carolina?
So Alex and Shayna are in New York because they're running the business side of things from there. We've got the whole tech team, all the engineers down in North Carolina, in and around Durham and Raleigh. I'm in Durham, and we built our Cosmic Heart team down here as well, and a lot of talent here. Very low cost of living. It's very tech savvy area. So we have a slight distribution between New York and Durham, but for the most part, we're all here in Durham.
Yeah. And just on a philosophical level, I thought I would ask you, since a lot of people who get into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is sort of a rebellious currency, a lot of people get into it are very rebellious. What do you think it takes to change the world?
Well, it takes an idea. It takes a little bit of arrogance, I think. You might call it confidence, but really it's arrogance. If you have some idea that you think you can do better than everybody else that's ever come before you, that's pretty arrogant.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's a lot that's come before, so
exactly.
Makes sense.
I think it's healthy arrogance. But it's also, you have to be able to let go of the idea that you're gonna do it. So you have to have an idea that you will succeed, not really care too much about if you fail, and then just be accepting of the fact that you might fail. Kind of just tuck that in the back of your mind, because you got to focus on that big idea, that arrogant idea. Make it come to life as best you can, and then say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was too arrogant." Knock you down a peg.
The edge. Interesting.
If you fail.
Yeah. Now, how do you look at failure? You've had failure in the past, or what you would call failure.
Sure. Yeah. It's they're learning experiences. They're not really anything to worry about or beat yourself up about. You always can look at your failures and realize, if I had just done this in retrospect, that this would have been better. And I think that's pretty common for most founders, is when you look at your past track record and see what you did right, what you did wrong, make sure you can look at both, take the good, learn from the bad, do better on the next one. And I feel like I've done a good job of that. Me and Alex have both done a good job of that. It's always a learning experience, and I think you should fail quite a few times before you get it right. It'd be kind of weird to come out of, and people do this, and I know they do this, of like even drop out of college and become billionaires with their unicorn companies, that type of thing. I think, it's idealistic and unlikely, and probably not as long lasting as somebody who fails a bunch of times and then finally gets it right, for longevity's sake. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm also older than most founders, I suppose. So I like to think that that will help my longevity.
Because you've had more learning.
Yeah, exactly.
More opportunities to learn. Can you explain? So you talked about you've done some things right and some things wrong. Can you talk about, in one of your past experiences, something that you did right and maybe something that you did wrong and what you've learned from it?
Yeah, so I think what I've done right, other than not hiring enough people, I've definitely hired the right people. I'm pretty good at finding good people to join the team and really mesh well with the team. We had a great team at Cosmic Heart. We've had a great team at Lolli.
I've heard this
Everybody,
over and over and over again, that people, that's the most important thing.
yeah.
So how do you do that? I mean, you're saying you're pretty good at that. Why, and how do you do that? Why do you think you're good at it?
It's intangible, I think. You just get a read for people during an interview or a phone call or whatever, and if they're able to tell you, actually this is very specific, if they're able to tell you what they can't do, a very honest, like, oh, I don't know that. You ask them a question, say, oh, I really don't know that. That's great to me, because that means all they have to do is really go Google it, and then they can learn about it. And their skill is the fact that they can learn quickly these things that they don't know, based on the rest of the interview, the rest of the discussion.
I love it, because it shows that they're honest. Because
totally.
Sometimes people in an interview feel pressured to be more than they really are, or put on something. And then if you see that there's a willingness to learn in that as well, then there's the
Absolutely.
missing piece. Interesting.
And generally the people that have joined the team are they're very curious. They're always learning new things. They're very interested in emerging technologies and trying to keep up to date with everything. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, next to honesty. Honesty comes into play more than anything. But then that desire to learn, always keep yourself up to date. Don't wait for somebody to send you to training to learn something. Always constantly be training yourself and building up your own portfolio of skills. And there's so many free resources out there. There's no reason not to. You don't need to take 3 weeks at a conference or something to learn a particular product. You can just open the docs and start hacking away at it, and you'll be pretty good at it, or good enough to produce a product, most likely. And then you just refine it over time. So, I like the idea of people who are able to jump in with both feet and just, sink or swim. And if they sink, they, start dog paddling a little bit.
Find the surface again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. So that's something you do well, or you've done right. And what about something that didn't go well that you've learned from?
Yeah, I mean, other than the not being able to grow the team fast enough and burning out, let's see. I think, especially with something like Cosmic Cart, not launching sooner. We had a couple of soft launches, and we went through acquisitions, and so directions changed and things like that. I think making sure that you get your MVP out and you launch it is critical, because you need to get it in front of people. People need to look at it and give you feedback on it. You need to see what works, what doesn't. And I don't mean like bugs, I mean business processes. And then start developing your refinements on top of that. So launching early, I think, would have been a much better, that would be advice I would give myself, a younger self, is, don't wait so long to launch it. Don't put so many features into it before you put it out there. You've got to just put it out there, start, driving traffic, driving sales if you're doing commerce, and then start refining.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. When I was a teenager, I was really into fine art and painting and that sort of thing. And I had a hard time with people looking at my unfinished painting. And it took me a while, but there's so much value to that feedback from others. Right. So once you put something out there, it can be that much better with some kind of community feedback. And it seems like you're doing that with Lolli, as you're saying, through Twitter. And so what have you learned from the time that you've put it out there in the world to now? What's some of your learning from community feedback?
Yeah, so I think the main thing, like I said before, was that people, wanted this ability to use their own address. We had really thought, like, we were naive, I suppose, that people were going to be, okay, we'll just use this custodial wallet with Lolli and that'll be it. We'll just collect all of our funds there. They'll hold on to it for us. It's super simple. And that's still the case, but, people did demand the ability to transfer out. So we added that. So listening to people who want those types of, I mean, we consider that an advanced feature when we come from the thesis that we're trying to educate people who've never done this before. So having your own address with your own private key, that type of thing, that's an advanced feature for a Lolli user. So originally that was going to come much later in the timeline, but here we are, we've got it. See what else. Store feedback. People requesting certain partnerships that, we'll go out and try to get a deal with, and say, hey, look, we've got this interest. Look at this buzz on Twitter. So and so, who sells sweaters or whatever. You've got these people waiting to come buy at your store instead of other big retail stores, because you could give Bitcoin back to them and really entice people with that kind of feedback, or entice stores. I think just, and then there's general bug fixes that come, like, hey, this isn't working, and we get an immediate feedback from Twitter for that. We can, generally fix that pretty quickly, turn it around and put it back out there so that they're not blocked from shopping. I don't know. It's just everything that you just got to look at everything that comes through, and even if it's bad feedback, or there's been very little. Actually, the worst feedback we've gotten has been before we had the transfers, was that we didn't have transfers, and then also some concerns around our privacy policy, which we're also working on to streamline a little better and really outline what we're collecting, because we're not selling user data or anything. I think people think from our privacy policy that we might be selling user data, and we're not. That's not part of our business model and never will be. So
it's important for people to know, especially now.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I know with Ebates, they're doing sometimes in-store cashback, and they've also done some gift cards as well. Will you be able to do something like that? Either of those features?
So we are working on a couple of things. 1 second, I just got to text my wife. Sorry.
Hello, what's her name?
Andy.
Andy, hi Andy.
So yeah, we are working on a couple of new ideas. You might even consider new products to go along with Lolli, the current version of Lolli. We've got to really branch out into mobile. We've got to start getting a native mobile app out there. We're working on that. We're in-store purchases. That's going to be a big thing for us. We hope, if we can get it right. There's always the ability to create your own card, that type of thing, gift cards. So there's tons of things you can do with it. We've just got to prioritize based on our small team and our timeline what comes next.
Yeah, well, it's super exciting. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Matt?
No. I think I'm good to go. We covered a lot of ground.
I think we did. We've got. I've got a couple of fun questions if you're up for them.
Sure.
Number one is, if I have $1 million lying around and I want to help the most amount of people with that money, what would you suggest that I do?
So what I would do is, with $1 million lying around, okay, first of all, I would probably do something especially if you have kids, I would probably fund some 529 accounts. That's it.
Tell me what that is. Sorry, I think I'm not familiar with that. Is that an educational fund?
That might be. Yeah, it's a college fund.
Okay, right.
So yeah, that might be a state's thing. So I think that'll be the first thing, is take care of your family, and make sure you don't have any debts. Usually, you could probably pay off all your debts with that type of thing. We don't like to accrue debt. Just making yourself financially stable instead of going out and buying Lambos and Ferraris.
Right. So stabilize your financial family first.
Yeah,
love it.
Sure.
Number two, this is the other question, which is, if I have no money and I want to do the same thing, I want to help the most amount of people, where would you suggest that I start?
Yeah, so even if you don't have money, you might have a specialty that people could learn from. So helping teach people new skills could be a way to start helping out. Or even, that's you could reach a lot of people doing that on the internet. But if you wanted to really focus, something we do here is our kids' school will do food bank volunteering on weekends upon occasion, and just going down and helping people out that way. You don't help a ton of people, but it does make a lot of difference for those people that you are helping. And it doesn't cost anything to do that. It's just your time. So yeah, there's so many different ways that you can give back to the community, especially in technology. If you're doing coding, there's open source projects you could give to that doesn't cost you any money. You can make things better that way. So I mean, it depends on what you want to do to help people. Do you want to give them a new career path? Do you want to help them financially? Do you want to make them happy? Do you want to feed them? There's so many options that don't require any kind of money at all.
Yeah, beautiful. Just you've made me think about trying to help somebody become happy. What's one thing that you could do to help another person be happy?
Well, I think the first thing I would do, especially in the founder arena, is pass along that information or that tidbit that was given to me of like, make sure you take care of yourself, because you're not going to be happy if you're burning the candle at both ends all the time. So I think that's been the most profound thing that anybody's ever told me. And it never expires. It's always a good suggestion.
And how do you do it? How do you find that balance in your life being a founder at the moment?
Well, it's very hard. And actually, Alex was like, you need to make working out part of your job. Like that needs to be a certain part of your day.
Interesting.
Like, yeah. So that's what I tried.
Is he good at it? Does he do a good job of it?
I think he does better this time than he did with Cosmic for sure. But yeah, it's, just making sure part of your routine for the day is, go to the gym. That really sets you up for a nice positive day, because you've already gotten it out of the way. You feel good about yourself. You might actually hate going to the gym. And I do run, but I hate running. But I'll do it because afterward I'll feel like, oh yeah, I did it. I'm done with it. This is a great, push for the rest of the day. So, yeah, you just got to schedule it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I was a personal trainer for a while, and I have always hated going to the gym. So yeah. I don't know how I did it, but yeah. And I definitely hated running when I first started, but I started when I was 17, and I, managed to get to a point where I crawled across the finish line doing a marathon a few years ago. So I think it's just so great for you. For me, it's like an active meditation. Once I go a certain distance, I just feel like I'm in another zone, and it just feels amazing, like after the fact, especially. Yeah,
and my wife's a runner. She when she runs like forever.
Great.
And I don't know how she does it, but she keeps trying to talk me into running a half marathon or a marathon. I'm like, I really don't know if I can. I think the most I've ever run at one time is like 7 miles, and then I'm just exhausted. And we're talking like barely plodding along at the end.
That's me. I waddle.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
I'm moving my arms at least.
That's great. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Matt. It was really, really great chatting with you today. And good luck with everything with Lolli. I think it's super cool. I'm so excited to join and to get shopping. Yeah, great. Yeah, do it. Buy a bunch. Yeah. Earn a bunch of Bitcoin. It's awesome. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Yeah. Thanks, you too. Okay, bye. Take care.